Well, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, Republican nominee for governor, thank you so much for joining me here at KRCG 13. Just to get things started, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and just about your candidacy?
Well, thank you for having me on. KRCG is the station that we've always watched and did a lot of business with here over the years, so a lot of your viewers have seen me probably in a different format. I'm originally from North St. Louis City. Got into the car business by washing cars at a very young age, and a long story short, ended up acquiring the Ford and Lincoln dealership here in Jefferson City back in 1992. My wife and I ran that for 20 years. Raised our 4 children here, small business man by trade. Really never thought about being in politics at all. So this is an interesting journey for me.
Awesome. And in your eyes, what do you think are just some of the main issues that the state of Missouri is facing right now?
Well, sure. The main issue that we hear about from just about every county in the state from corner to corner is crime. Keeping our neighborhoods safe, keeping our communities safe, and actually backing the men and ladies in blue who protect those communities. That's our #1 plan. It's our #1 issue that we'll enact should we be fortunate enough to win the trust of Missourians. We'll have a crime plan on day 1, and we'll get our communities back. We will back the police, and we'll make a big difference in the state.
And you talk about, crime being one of the main things you want to address and just one of your goals. A lot of politicians, I know they make all these remarks about what they're going to do on day 1, but as you know, it's a little bit more difficult than that. It takes some collaboration. So how would you work with both sides of the aisle to help achieve these goals?
Well, sure. The legislative body is no different really than running a business. You have folks that you have to make sure you work with no matter what their viewpoint were. That could be other Republicans, it could be people on the other side of the aisle, to get together on what's best for the state. And my goal every day really is to keep government out of people's lives, so that's the best part of the job, is to make sure that we realize Missourians are pretty smart. They don't need us telling them what to do every day. But on issues like crime, economic development, education reform, we'll bring people together from both the House and Senate from various parts of the state to go forward with our plan and really get something done for Missourians.
And if you are elected as governor, obviously managing the budget will be a huge responsibility of yours. What are your plans for spending?
Well, not spending, cutting. We really want to put money back into Missourians' pockets. I'm the only candidate in the race that has backed over $2.4 billion in tax cuts. We think there's more room to cut more out of Missouri's budget and give it back to Missourians. Now, the budget's going to get tougher in the next 2 or 3 years, so it's going to be challenging. But that's why I think you need a business person who understands what it's like to actually craft budgets and actually keep budgets in line is what we would like to do. Government doesn't have an income problem, it has a spending problem. So we want to make sure that we control that budget, make better decisions for Missourians, and then have enough left in the bank to actually be able to give money back to Missourians at some point in time.
And you touched on tax cuts a little bit, but I guess what would taxes look like under a Kehoe administration? Well,
sure. Our personal income tax is the largest tax that Missourians pay. And in the last several years, since I've been in the Senate and as Lieutenant Governor, we've cut our personal income tax from 6% to 4.7%. We want to continue to ratchet that down until we eventually get to 0%, because again, I think money in Missourians' pocket is better spent than the politicians can spend it.
Now kind of shifting gears to some issues that may prove to be top of mind for voters this fall. I know you've already again mentioned this, but crime is proving to be one of those issues. What are some things that your administration would specifically do to kind of make sure that Missourians feel safe?
Well, we were the only candidate, I should say, that was endorsed by all of the statewide law enforcement organizations. So the police chiefs, the sheriffs, the Fraternal Order of Police, the State Troopers Association, not only endorsed us, but we also have them working together on what that crime plan could look like. We're going to work with the Attorney General's office, Andrew Bailey, and then we're also going to work with House and Senate leadership to know that if there's some statute changes made, we're hopeful that they can help us get those moved for the legislature, get them on my desk so we can sign it. But through executive orders and different things that we can do with the Attorney General's office, we'll be able to make some instant progress in the first few days that we're in the governor's office.
And reproductive rights are also shaping up to be a major issue on the ballot this November. If elected, where would your office stand on that issue?
Well, hopefully that Missourians will vote down Amendment 3. I think Amendment 3 is probably the worst constitutional amendment I've seen on our ballot since I've been voting in 42 years. The yes side wants to promote it as women's rights, but I would ask your viewers to read that amendment. It's pretty long, it's pretty complicated, but the word woman is not mentioned one time in it. I think the best thing that any elected official could do at any level of government is protect the innocent life that can't speak for themselves. I've always done that. I'll continue to protect innocent life the best I can as your governor.
And thinking about protecting innocent life, I guess just with abortion specifically, do you see any instances or any, I guess, sorry, let me rephrase this question because I want to make sure I ask it fairly.
Sure.
I guess just thinking about abortion specifically, taking a look at your campaign website, you mentioned being 100% pro-life. Do you see any room for exceptions in that at all?
Yeah, we've talked many times about what exceptions might look like, and I've said if the legislature were to bring to my desk some exceptions that aren't crazy and extreme, like Amendment 3 is extreme, we would take a hard look at that. I'm the father of 4 kids, 3 of those are women, and I understand women's health and what that might look like. So if the legislator were to present something that's reasonable to me, we sure would look like it.
And another issue that's being brought up, not just in Missouri, but on a national scale right now, is immigration. Where would your office stand on this policy?
Well, I'm hopeful that we can make a change on a national level on November 5th by electing Donald Trump as our president. I think he had the best job of locking the border down. I've been to the border twice. I'm the only candidate who's done that, once with our National Guard and once with our Highway Patrol. I can tell you the border situation is horrible, and the illegal Chinese-made fentanyl that's coming across that's fatal to Missourians is coming across at record pace. We have to continue to lock down that border. I want that to be done at the national level. God forbid if that doesn't happen, Missouri will continue to support Governor Abbott and others to make sure we lock the border down and stop those deadly drugs from coming into Missouri.
And what would you say to opponents who argue that, immigration is not maybe impacting Missourians because Missouri is not a direct border state?
Missouri is a border state. You don't have to have real estate with Mexico to be a border state anymore. There's an estimate that we have over 70,000 illegal immigrants living in the state of Missouri right now. And just in calendar year 2023 alone, the state of Missouri spent over $460 million. We're a border state, even though we're not a border with Mexico. They're coming in here. We need to shut that down.
Kind of shifting gears now over to education, what would your office do just to kind of continue to make sure that Missourians are getting a quality education?
Well, we made great progress this last session in passing Senate Bill 727. There's additional work that needs to do. I think parents need to make sure that they have the options for their kids to get the right education, be taught the right curriculum that they think aligns with their family Christian values in this case. So making sure parents have options and that kids are coming out of the system prepared to go into the workforce is very important to me. So we're going to continue to look at what options we can provide for parents, but we're also going to continue to look at how we make sure kids get a great next step, and whether that goes into a career and technical training, a 2-year college or a 4-year college. We want to make sure kids have the right options and the right education to match that.
And unfortunately, here in mid-Missouri recently, we've seen a number of threats made against schools. Is there anything that your administration would do to kind of mitigate violence in schools? Yeah,
I think there's a lot of technology out there right now that we can work with schools and school safety. We've come a long way in what we can do for various school districts, and certainly keeping our children should be the #1 priority, safe, and we will work to do that very hard.
And some on the opposite side of the aisle right now, another issue, they're arguing for increasing the minimum wage here in Missouri. Where do you stand on that? Yeah, I am 100% against increasing the minimum wage from a government. If an employer wants to do that, somebody who's running their business and they decide what employees they need to be paid based on a market rate, based on what they can sell their product for, the independent business owner should be able to make that decision. I am not in favor of government setting a minimum wage and or the benefits that go along with it. It's just not the way our country was built, and it's not the free market principle I live by. And I guess my final question would be, as voters kind of head to the ballot box here in November, if they vote for Mike Kehoe, what are they voting for? Well, if you vote for Mike Kehoe, you're going to vote for somebody who's quite frankly lived the American dream. I started out very humble, never met my father. My mom raised 6 kids by herself. I was the youngest of those 6. And we worked really hard to get ahead.
And I've been through, and blessed to have been through several different businesses, creating hundreds of jobs over 35 years. I know how to create jobs. I know how to recreate that American dream. It's my turn to give back to Missourians so that future generations have the ability to do what I've been able to do. And Missourians are going to see a much brighter future on the other side.